Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Now I've got a couple of new Gigapans for you to check out. Now this is one I did upload before, but this is a version of it I've redone. This is Sol 62. Now this is mass left, Perseverance rover. This is the one with the statue in it, near the back here. And you can see it just there. Now this is a long, long way off. In fact, it's a lot further away than it seems from here, because this image actually comes right down. This is only the middle section of this Gigapan. The Gigapan actually comes right down to here. So this is actually much further than it looks. So this is between 100 and 200 feet away. Okay, so this is big. Like I said in the previous video, I think it's about 6 or maybe 8 feet, the visible part of this statue. And if you use the magnifier, you can see it just there. Okay, with the head, sort of helmet shape, coming to a point. Now, unlike in the previous video, where I said I thought it was facing towards us, I actually think this is facing right. And I'll show you a close-up of that in a minute. There's also this other Gigapan I've just uploaded. This is Sol 63. This is taken by the SuperCam. And the SuperCam takes these round images, which you then stitch together. And this zoomed right in to the bunker-shaped structure in the background, which is about a mile away from the rover. And this is the best view we've had of it so far. And it looks really cool. There's lots of detail in here, or at least a lot more detail in here. I would still like to see more, obviously. But you've got some great detail up here. And there's a few things that I've spotted in here, which I'll show you in a minute. These things are still about a mile away. So basically, we're not going to see them in great detail, but the camera has zoomed in quite a long way. So we can see some of it. And there's this skull here, just here, which looks like an alien skull, just there. It's very vague. You can make out the mouth, 2 eyes and a nose and a head coming up here. I'll show you clips of this in a minute. And there's also a statue over here, it seems anyway. A large statue on the edge of it here with a helmet. And you can actually see, without me doing anything to this at all, in this image, you can actually see, if you look carefully, just here, there's an eye just here. There's a nose, there's a mouth here, this dark patch. And a helmet coming up, just here, there's a helmet. Absolutely insane. Now this may be an optical trick. I would like to see more detailed close-ups of this to actually verify this. So a lot of this stuff is a bit ambiguous when it's at this distance. But the point is, with the SuperCam, is that the images are not downgraded in any way. In other words, what the pixels you see in the image are actually there. There's very, very little distortion in these images because they haven't been resized and resampled down like some images have, like some of the other camera shots we get from this rover. There's a bunch of things here. There's also this weird thing over here that's kind of a hexagonal rock here with a weird round section in the middle. I'll show you clips of those in a minute, but the main thing I want to show you is this, because I've done some comparative close-ups of this, and there's also a weird object next to it as well, which I think is rather strange just here. I don't know what it is, but it's very strange. There's these weird parts to it. But the statue itself is, I think, now looking to the right here, this way. And this point, I think, is the nose just here. Okay? I could be wrong, but I've got a close-up here of this. And what I've done is I've taken this one from the left mass cam, and this one is from the right mass cam. Now these have both been color corrected and had the contrast turned up exactly the same on both. What I did, I processed them both at the same time to make sure that I did them exactly the same, to show you that there are differences, because there is a slight angle difference between these. Obviously this is the masked right on the right and the left on the left here. And you can see slightly different detail because the shadows are very slightly different because of the angle difference. And there are very, very minor differences here that you can pick out. One of them, I think, is more reliable than the other. I think the left one looks slightly better because we got more shape definition. And we can actually see, when you zoom in here, if I zoom in here, you can actually see the top of the helmet very clearly. Well, pretty clearly, like this. It's the helmet. And you can see an eye here. And the mouth. here. Okay. Now those don't show up very well in the right one. Let me show you the right side. You can still see something there, but it's a bit more distorted, and the mouth doesn't show up very well. You can see something here. Now this looks like an eye here, but I think that's a shadow there. This is the eye behind it. There. Could be wrong. And there's not much mouth detail here. You can see the upper lip here, and what looks like a nostril. So we're seeing a nostril in this one, and we're not really seeing much of a nostril in this one. We could sort of see a shadow here, but the mouth in this one shows up better. We've got a sort of highlighted part around the mouth, which is kind of highlighting it, where the sun has caught it slightly differently from this angle, okay? So this is really what you have to do. When you find something, you need to find the left and the right version of that area, okay? And then compare them back to back and enhance both of them the same and see if you can pick out differences. Because often you'll see things in one camera which don't quite show up in the other as well. And this is a good example of that. Now, one or two people have said that they thought this looked like a chain hanging down here. It may well be, this coming down here at the back. Now, I think this is actually representing hair. Because if you look really carefully, there seems to be a knot here or a ring at the top, right? But we do have these. What I'm going to do actually, let's get rid of that. I'm going to darken this up and add loads of contrast to it and see what happens. Because sometimes when you really crank the contrast, you can see other things or more shapes pop out, okay? And you can see what looks like almost like a chain structure in this part at the back, but I don't think it is a chain, but I could be wrong. But the point is, if this is a depiction of a person or reptoid or whatever it is, wearing a helmet. Now, helmets on Earth, old school kind of helmets, often had crests and like tails coming down off them. And this may represent a tail or a crest coming off the top. This is 2,400 meters down. Gale crater, where I normally show you, is a lot deeper. That's about 4,550 meters down. So this is only half as far down as Gale crater. But it doesn't mean that a lot of this stuff isn't tsunami debris and wreckage, as well as wrecked and buried buildings and debris half buried in the sand. And a lot of the sand is blown around and some of it's blown away, exposing some of these things that may have been buried for many, many thousands of years. Or, conversely, they may not be that old. They may only be a few thousand years old. So, but I'm guessing some of this stuff is about 5 or 10,000, 12,000 years old, because that's when we had a cataclysm on Earth. And I think they probably had one at the same time there because it was caused by the same event, like a massive solar storm, flare, which would explain why many of the statues and buildings in places like Egypt are melted on one side, okay? And we also see this in places like South America as well, with some of the very ancient structures where on one side they're melted and the stone is literally melted, okay? And it takes extreme heat to do that. And a lot of the stuff on Mars was probably affected in the same way. They may have survived it, we survived it, but they may have had more cataclysms and also a nuclear war later on. So who knows when that was exactly. So this to me looks more like a reptoid, like some of the other statues and remains that I found, which look like reptilian types. And that's the uncomfortable truth, really, that we're looking at here. It would be nice if they were all kind of humanoids and humans, but they're not. Some aren't. Most of the statues I found are, it seems, types of humanoid, similar to us. But there are quite a few that aren't, and there are remains of reptoids and reptilians on the ground. That's the fact of it. About 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 of the ones I've found so far seem to have reptilian features. So there was quite a lot going on up there, but this really does look like a helmet coming to here, and if you go in really close, you can just about make out an eye shape there, and the mouth. Okay, there's the chin, and we've got a bit more detail here. Now this, I think, here could be a shield. It's got a very straight edge to it here, but there's something obscuring it just here, which you can see more on this side here. See that? So that may be a shield. Some people thought this might have been a female or a woman holding a baby. I don't think it is. It could be, but I don't think it is. This, to me, is very flat coming across here, very straight. This looks like a shield or something. Now, what this may represent is a warrior, a Reptoid warrior, and possibly in this position may have been in a defensive stance, okay, rather like a warrior holding a shield with perhaps a sword sticking out here and the shield coming down here like this. I don't know. It could be almost anything. It could have been holding a spear, could have been holding anything. We don't know. But this is why we need to get there and uncover some of this stuff and remove the sand and just dig down into the sand, and we'll find out. Very interesting. I'll see if I can find some examples of statues in this position with a shield and a sword or whatever, because that's what it kind of looks like to me. It looks like a defensive kind of posture, and this looks like possibly hair coming down, like I said before. But there's some interesting details here that look a bit like armor plate. Okay, you've got different sections. So that could be shoulder armor coming up here. And on the left one here, you can actually see this shape sticking out more. There's something going on here with this object, right? I mean, this may be part of a wall or building here. We don't know if that's actually attached. It looks like it's attached, but from this distance, it's hard to say because things can often look like they're joined. It probably is joined because you've got the same luminosity here between this up here and this here. So that matches up. So it is probably joined. We've got some interesting details here. And when you darken it and play around with it, you can bring certain parts of it out better. But in this one, you can see these kind of loops here. Just here. So this may be a chain, but who knows? Just as likely plaits or hair, I think. So that was interesting. So credit again to Rami for this find. It's really interesting, this one. So full credit to him for this find. It's not one of mine. I'm just showing you what I found in this image to compare. And what I'm trying to do is work out whether this is human or not. And it doesn't look it. But I could be wrong. It could be facing slightly more towards us or something. Who knows? So interesting stuff going on here. Is that a shield? Is it something else? These may be fingers here. Holding a book even. This may be a book. So it may not be a shield. It could be almost anything. But it's very straight. It's got this perfect rectangular part here, which looks like a very straight edge. Now, this would probably go straight down if it wasn't for this object here obscuring it, right? So it could be a shield, could be a book, could be almost anything. So I would imagine this would go right down like this into the ground. And if you look at it on the actual Gigapan, like I said before, if it was stood up, would come right down to here, buried. So we'd have to dig a long way down to find the base of this, and it may be mounted on a stand or a plinth of some sort, or attached to a building even. So there may be a building directly below this, either an entrance to a building or even the top of a building. Okay, so we really don't know, because this sand, I do think, is really deep here. I think it's probably about 20 feet deep in most of these areas, in this particular part. In other parts of Jezero, there's a lot less sand and rubble on the ground, and it's almost clear, and it's just like a lake bed. But this particular part where the rovers landed is littered with debris, and I think the sand is at least 10, possibly between 10 and 30 feet deep, probably around 20. So there's a lot going on under this sand here, and we're only seeing the very top stuff that's exposed, where the wind has blown the sand away. Here's that alien thing I showed you on the ridge, on the bunker-shaped structure. Now, this is a long way off, so we're not seeing a lot of detail here, but even in this clip here, this basic clip, you can actually see that there's a head here with eyes, nose and a mouth and a chin. So I'll show you the enhancements. There's the enhancement, you can just about make it out. And in negative, you can see the eyes there and the mouth better. But like I said, this is about a mile away. It's over a kilometre. Here's that hexagonal object with the circular part in the middle, which is really odd. Looks like part of something here. Could be, who knows. We'll see close-ups of this eventually anyway. And then there was that statue I showed you on the end. I'll show you the basic clip. There's the basic clip of it from the Gigapan. Very pale. So you need to add contrast. You can see the helmet sticking up there. Right, but you can even see an eye that's just here. That's the eye. With pupil detail just here, where my little hand cursor is, just there. Right? When you zoom out, you can see the nose, little nose and a mouth here. This is the face. And a sort of helmet coming out, almost like a large battle helmet or something. Very odd. Let's look at the next one. Here's the enhancement, where I've cranked up the contrast. That's all I've done. It's gone very grainy because I've added a bit of sharpness to it as well. And you can see that eye just there, and a mouth, and a big helmet sticking up, which comes right back here. And what seems to be a body here as well. Okay, so this may turn out to be an optical trick when we get closer, but we may never see this. If the rover drives around to the left side, which I think it will, we may never see this again in this much detail. I'm hoping we will. So there we are, that was that. So I'll put some clips of these things in again in a minute anyway, because you need to look at them a bit more carefully and longer really to see this stuff properly. And study the Gigapan, use the magnifier, hover zoom magnifier, and you can see all these things in here. There's a few things I've marked here, but that one on the end was big, it was quite big, and that's why we're seeing good detail on it, because it's much larger than the other things. And you can see that eye just here, and a nose and a mouth there, just there. And there seems to be a body or something here, but it's all kind of broken down and collapsed down. And there's a weird thing sticking up just there, I've just noticed. Just here. So there's some kind of structure here below it, which may represent a body or something, I don't know. So what I will do is I will post that image on my community page here. There'll be a post to this on that page, and there'll be a link to it below, okay? And you can download this, okay, and check it out. Add some contrast, like I said, play around with it, see what you can drag out. There's some definite detail to be seen here. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you soon.